Hey guys, Janine here with Tiger Talk Tuesday, episode 15 with Elisa Kurylowicz.
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
You did.
Awesome.
You nailed it.
We've been off camera jibber jabbering for quite some time. I know we said we were going to come on at 11, but when you get two energies like ours together, we could be here all day. Anyways, I have posted her bio in the notes. I'm going to highlight some of the major accomplishments that Elisa's had. She is a former member of the Canadian Freestyle Ski team, two-time national champion, and a World Cup gold medalist in the sport of Mogul Skiing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I can only imagine what the training is like to do that. Following her professional ski career, she excelled in high-performance coaching with over 20,000 hours experience at this level, and she's considered one of the top female coaches in Canada and has been instrumental in the development of the sport, both technically and strategically. That's very, very cool. This is where I really wanted her to come on. After missing the Olympic Games in 2006, Elisa fell into a deep depression. She quit skiing, gained 85 pounds in 1 year, abused her body and mind, was in an abusive relationship, and was over $30,000 in credit card debt. She then hit rock bottom in 2010, where she sat for over a year. Then one day she had a wake-up call and turned her life upside down. And I will leave the rest. There's an amazing history. You guys can read it, but this is where I want to start our chat. So Thank you for being on. Let's go right to when you left, after missing the Olympic Games in 2006. Talk to me about that.
Well, I will say this.
Bring in the camera there. Just
sorry. In 2006, I was at the peak of my athleticism, of my career, of everything that came together. And the way that the Olympics works is you have to qualify. And so I was technically ranked second in Canada at the Olympics in 2006. They sent 4 women. But I didn't go because every qualification event I would quote unquote choke. Something would happen. I would mess up. And I slipped.
Like performance anxiety?
Performance anxiety. Absolutely. It was totally mental. At that point, my mental game was, I don't know, slipping, failing. You can label it. That's how I used to label it.
Yep.
That I was slipping and failing. And I mean, the day that I found out that I was not going to the Olympics, it was the last qualifying event. I needed a top 12 to go. Top 12 is like that's where I lived. I always lived in the final. I was always in the top 5, to be honest. I was like 12th, I can make a 12th. And I had an amazing performance. I actually crossed the finish line, just released all of this relief that I was like, yes, I'm going to the Olympics. However, mogul skiing is a judged sport. And some of the judges didn't like some of the things that I did. And I was slotted in 13th. I was 13th place. I needed a top 12. So I didn't go. And it was like my dreams, my identity as an Olympian, as an athlete. I literally felt, I left my body.
Yeah.
I felt myself leaving my body and just holy crap, what do I do?
Yeah.
So that was that moment.
Pulling you in the screen.
Yeah, please keep pulling me. I'm having a party over here. Oh, hey guys. So that moment of losing my identity. I was the kid who at school, when the national anthem played, I was standing there visualizing myself on the top of the Olympic podium, every single day for my entire high school. And I wanted it so bad. So when that didn't happen, I lost my identity. I didn't know who I was outside of sport. I was so tunnel vision that I didn't know. And of course, my parents had never been in performance sport. We didn't, sports psychologists, they moved on. So what happened was I was put on a bus. I was taken I was in a place called Modena, Italy. I was taken to the airport in Milan, Italy. And that was it. They dropped me off. It was 3:00 in the morning. As soon as the event was over, they're like, pack your stuff, you're getting on a bus. And I was like, what? I got to the airport. I paid $1,800 for a ticket, a one-way ticket home. Remember the paper tickets? That's what it wasn't even electronic back then. And I went home and I watched the Olympic Games from my living room. And I immediately, my coping strategy was to quit. I was like, they don't like me. I blamed my coaches. I blamed the psychologist. I blamed the support staff. I blamed Freestyle Canada. I blamed everyone but myself. I couldn't accept my role in what happened. And so it was all, I became the victim of my life. I didn't know who I was outside of sport, and I became the victim. So what I did was numbed. I needed to hide from myself. I couldn't sit with the discomfort and the pain of failure. And that's easy for me to say now, looking out. But in the moment, I didn't know. It was a whirlwind. It's a cloudy, foggy, messy, hazy time. Like, and I was treading water, drinking. I drank every single day. I started smoking cigarettes. I was eating like ramen noodles every meal. I was punishing myself. I was subconsciously punishing and attacking my body and replaying that story of failure over and over and over and over and over again. And that led to me making some very poor decisions. I started manifesting or pulling in negative, toxic people in my life. One of which was my ex-husband. I married an abusive man. I got into severe debt again. I gained 85 pounds in 1 year. You mentioned that. In a year. Like, and I went from high performance training all the time, like perfect athleticism. Like I was at the top of my game, to this person that one day I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. And that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I didn't see it. I denied myself. I avoided the healing. I avoided moving through the motions. Why? I think I did that because I didn't know. I didn't trust myself. I had a great support system. Like my mom was fantastic. My family was there for me. My friends, like the friends that are my real friends, were there for me.
Yeah, not the ones that just want to be the gold medalists.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So people come and go out of our lives for whatever reasons. And the people that really loved me were there. They showed up. But I didn't show up for me. So it's interesting how in struggle we like can lean on people, but I didn't even want to lean on them because I was so stubborn and like
self-loathing.
Yeah, I was just in so much garbage swirling in the mind, and I started to believe that garbage. I started to believe my negative self-talk, and it just reinforced over and over. I'd lay awake at night. I could probably only go to sleep at night after a few drinks because then I could, but then of course I'm not getting a good sleep. I'm not setting myself up for a great day the next day. I'm not like the dominoes, every domino I was ticking to set me up for this Groundhog Day of failure. And that's what I did. And then I had this aha moment, which is like...
I want to go on. Okay. You said something, there was a couple things that stood out to me that I thought really powerful. So I just watched the Arnold documentary. Have you seen it?
No.
And he talks a lot. I've always had a vision for myself.
Yeah.
And it's like when you were at your best, like the power of vision for athletes, it pulled you through to become a gold medalist. Literally, you saw yourself on podiums. I cannot, that was one thing that really stuck out to me. And then the lies we tell ourselves, and you talked about self-talk, sorry, I'm having a hot flash. The lies we tell ourselves, legit, I'm having a hot flash, ladies. We tell ourselves those lies long enough.
Yeah.
We believe them, power of self-talk, as you did. And then we show up to prove the lies are true. So then we believe it must be true. And it's that vicious cycle, which you were definitely in that deep area of self-loathing.
And you look and you start seeing the lie in the world to validate yourself.
Of course.
You start seeing it in people.
And you attract people that will prove your lie.
That's right.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you're in this
But you don't know you're doing it.
Of course. There's no awareness.
The awareness. Yeah, exactly.
When you're in the thick of it, this is a great transition. So when you're in the thick of it, how, like, I felt like I had that moment too of a aha moment where I looked in the mirror and I was like, I just couldn't recognize the girl looking back at me.
Yeah.
I was self-sabotaging, doing everything, making excuses until so much time had passed, didn't know who I was. So what was your inciting moment that made you decide enough's enough?
So I literally went into the bathroom, just turned the light on, went to go brush my teeth in the morning, and I flicked the light on and I saw my reflection looking back. And like I said, I didn't recognize myself. And I heard a voice that said, help me. It was like, what the F are you doing? Like,
your higher self.
My higher self swore to me. It was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh my God. And it's interesting now, like, as an athlete, especially high performance athlete, not saying like all the levels have their own strengths and weaknesses, but I was so disciplined. I learned the skill of discipline. I learned the skill of practice. I learned a lot of skills on how to show up for my sport. I learned how to show up. I learned how to move through adversity, to sacrifice, to prioritize. Like, there are so many, there were days where I was not motivated whatsoever. There was days that I had zero inspiration, but I got out of bed and I did the thing.
Yep.
I did the thing, whether I felt good or not, to do it. And so it's interesting because after the failure, I showed up in the same way. I was very disciplined.
I have a bad one.
Do you want to switch?
There's
a fan.
There's a fan. I have a fan on my feet because I'm dying here. Anyways, okay, go on.
Well, I was showing up disciplined in that same narrative. So I kept going with it. And in the moment that I saw myself in the mirror, I realized it all sort of like flashed before my eyes. You know, so you watching today have most likely had an aha moment. Have you had an aha? I like Oprah's aha because it's like so easy. You're like, oh my God. And so two things will happen after you have an aha moment. The first thing is that, what was that? What was that?
All the interruptions today. Sorry, we're not going to answer that.
Okay. So two things will happen. The first thing is that you're going to feel like a new person and you're going to go about your day with this insight like, oh my gosh, I'm changed. And slowly but surely, your default settings will kick in and you're just going to go back to the things that you're comfortable doing.
There's always a relapse. There's always, when you start to change, it always,
Well, you haven't changed yet. You think you've changed because the aha moment's so powerful that there is that like good feeling of like, I know what to do.
Yeah.
And then you don't do that.
Or you're consistent for a week and then you're not.
I think being consistent for a week is not doing it.
Yeah, I agree. And then you go back. Yeah, exactly.
I think being motivated for a short period of time is the default setting still running.
Of course.
You're just fighting it for a second. The second thing you can do after an aha moment is understand that you have not learned how to see the world that way. The universe is showing you something, and now it's your responsibility to take that and learn about it and start to do. So there's a difference between knowledge and knowing. And this is something that I learned the most extreme way, a very hard way, because you can read all the self-help books you want. You can have all of the knowledge that you want.
Yeah.
For example, you can teach your kid, you can show your kid who's like a sponge for learning. You can give him a PhD in swimming. You can have them read every single book on how to swim, right? But what's going to happen when you push that kid into deep water?
Yeah.
Right? Are they going to be able to save themselves? Are they going to be able to use what they think they know about the subject in reality? So that was what happened with me. I had this aha moment and I realized everything I thought I knew, it's not like it was bullshit, but everything I thought I knew is just right here. It's just knowledge. I haven't implemented anything into the doing. And the doing is where self-mastery occurs. And that's where you start to know who you are, is in the doing. So in that moment, I realized I know nothing. I need help to learn new skills, because skills are big. Knowledge is one thing, skills are another. Knowledge is one thing, skills are another. And practice those skills is even a deeper understanding.
Because the emotions and the thoughts, having the ability to examine your thoughts and emotions and awareness around the triggers Like, oh, that just triggered me. Why did that person just trigger me in becoming aware? That's huge. I think when you say the doing, can you elaborate on that? Because I find, again, I've noticed, like, sometimes I'll have these conversations and people don't understand, like, I call it the heart work.
Yeah.
Not the hard, it is hard work, but the heart work, where we don't want to go. But can you, when you talk about the doing, what are you doing when you, like, to bridge that gap? Because, again, there's the athlete and the amazing skill sets that you had as an athlete. And then there's the person that you're like, I'm not her. You're identifying with your athletic person, who she was, and then you've gone through this other space of self-loathing. And to bridge that gap, those new skill sets, what did you do? Like, what is, explain what the doing is for the people watching, because they're like, okay, that's great, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do I learn to swim in the deep water? You have to go there. You have to experience your own resistance and pay attention to it. So people can do this through, there's a lot of ways to get in. In my world, how I see things going is like there's trends. There's mindset trends, like the journaling, like the meditating, the, cold tap. Yeah, those things are great. Yeah. They're all absolutely excellent if
take action after you do it.
If in the moment when you're learning that, you can sit with the discomfort of those hard things.
I love that.
So when you're meditating, if you're the person saying, I can't meditate, I'm uncomfortable, this isn't work, oh my God, I keep wandering my mind, I can't do this. Like, if you're that person, observe that in yourself.
It's like when you were a skier, the first time you went skiing, were you great at moguls? No, but you practiced to get better.
Practice is one thing. It's not like, practice doesn't equal perfect. It's like, practice equals, like, I hate the word practice equals perfect. And someone actually said perfect practice equals perfect, but perfect is subjective. Exactly. So it doesn't even matter. Your idea of what perfect is, we attach so the bottom line is this, in the doing. Let's just like focus on that. What I did was I learned how to pay attention and observe the narrator. So like one of the ways that you can sort of think about this is we all have this inner voice, right? Like you have self-talk. So if you are the one talking, who is the one listening? Okay? So in that realm, there's someone talking and there's someone listening. So if you could observe that conversation, almost like
an out-of-body experience.
Almost out of body. It's not really like that, but I hear myself talking negatively to myself all the time. It's our ego. It's wounds. It's past experiences. It's beliefs. Our thoughts are formed in three ways. Through repetition, which is how we learned English, which is how we learn most of our things is repetition. Through authority figures telling us what to do because we just trust them.
Parents.
Yes. And the last one is through tradition. So the way it always was. So if you repeat the same thing over and over again, but you are unconscious of it. For example, my word was, Elisa, you are a fat pig. I said that all the time. I would oink at myself. Up as a fat pig. Yeah.
That sounds terrible. I just said that all the time.
No, but I did.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like after I had my wake up call, I walked, because I was still traveling. I was coaching athletes. I was like pretending that everything was okay. I like sugarcoated my whole life. And I was walking down an airplane aisle, and my butt and my hips were hitting the people's legs and bodies. Like my body was so wide that I was literally brushing against people on both sides. And that was like oh my God moment. Like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
It was like, and so the fat pig narrative keeps going, it loops. So if you don't even know what you're saying to yourself, then you won't be able to change it. You need to bring awareness. You need to be able to observe that saying. Is that true? No, that comes later. So the doing, it all starts with observing the mind, observing the narrator, and like observing the voice. So I like to call the narrator the ego. It's the tyrant. It's the judge. It's the victim judger. You're either victimizing yourself or judging yourself and others.
Shame, guilt,
but also like, oh my God, that girl's talking about us over there. Oh my God, like this, you're judging and you're blaming all the time and victimizing. That's the ego. Your soul is the listener. Your soul
And every fiber of your being, he feels that. And yeah.
Yes, your soul is kind of like your body. It's from the neck down. Your ego is kind of from the neck up, and your soul is from... And let me tell you this. Your soul doesn't give a shit about the latest iPhone 5 or iPhone 14 or the jeans or the car or the house or the bank account. It doesn't give a shit about that stuff, or the gold medal, or being an athlete or a World Cup or a star
all the
or an author
we label
or whatever
ourselves,
we want. It doesn't give a shit about that. It wants you to slow down, put your feet in the sand. It wants you to look up at the stars. It wants you to connect to the human that you are, to the animal that you are. And that's where you're going to find the answers. But we live in a world which is go, 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 go. If you're not this, then you are that. If you are of this opinion, then you are that. Like and in order to belong and feel safe, you have to do what the person in front of you is doing. You can't step out of line in so many situations. And that's what happens in sport too. Like, as soon as you step out of line, you're outcast. So you can't do that for your survival. And our brains are wired that way. Mm-hmm. Am I going way off?
No, it's okay. It's
okay.
okay.
Here.
Yeah.
So it's like ego. You are your body. You are your mind, which is your ego, and you are your soul, which is your life force, which is the energy, which is the listener, the observer. So observe. And you have to just show up and do that. What you will observe is going to be challenging.
Very uncomfortable.
It's going to be hard. You won't like it. Mm-hmm. I was taught, I worked at the spiritual coach for 10 years. 10 years.
Wow.
I worked with someone. I started writing it down, and I had pages and pages and pages of all these awful things. One could argue that was manifesting something bad because I was writing it down. However, what I learned was that I started to understand the words that I was using and where I learned those words, because they're not my words.
Yeah, they're your environment and the people around you.
That's
and
right.
Coaches.
I adopted those words and through to being domesticated as an athlete. And then I started to self-domesticate. And that's what we do. We learn something. We hear something. We see it in the media. We see it in movies. We see it in TV shows. We watch our parents. We watch our teams. We watch our coaches. Like all of these things. And then those narratives become the voice in our mind. It's like the whole thing with people that struggle with their relationship with food. Especially my generation. I had grandparents and parents that were like,
finish everything on your plate.
Yes.
I did too.
Starving kids in Africa. Like,
oh my God, I catch myself doing that to my kids.
Because that is, what does that do? That shames, you're shaming, there's shame in there. Or when you go to your neighbor's house and they're serving meatloaf, eat everything or else you're disrespecting them if you don't like what they're serving. So you start to go against what you want in your life, and you start to eat the food, and then you get older, and your mom's voice or your grandmother's voice or whoever's voice becomes your own, and you start to say those same things, and you think that voice is yours. Mm-hmm. But it's not. Mm-hmm. It is the voice that you have adopted. So through this whole journey, let's just circle back to sport. I learned to do things in one way. I punished myself in that same vein, with the same discipline, figured it out.
That's just, you punish yourself with the same discipline. I agree with the highest of which you feel the highs, the lowest, it's the yin and the yang. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you showed up with that same, that's interesting. I can relate to that big time.
And now in my life, the balance, my ability to hear and correct, because there's no silver bullet to this.
No, it's a lifelong journey.
We want to fix that pain right away. You can't fix a pain if you don't know what the pain is, and you aren't willing to feel uncomfortable. And that is how do we avoid the pain? Well, we do what I did, in that thing. We drink, we overconsume, we go into debt, we eat till we're blue in the face. We drink all the time. All we do is look forward to that drink later. We can't sleep. We blame the world. We never look in the mirror. So the mirror.
And it's not even the physical mirror that you see. It's the person inside that we don't do the work with, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The mirror analogy, it's so funny when you look in the mirror and you who am I? The analogy goes figuratively, literally, like it was such a beautiful moment that you could say the universe gave to me, and timing is everything. I was in a space where I was like, got it.
And then you just got into action on the right behaviors after that? Or obviously when you start to evolve and self-discover, and then you put new practices into place, you kind of, and then you see little wins, and then it builds that self-trust, right? And then you start to build that self-worth and belief again.
Yeah, well, it's funny to what you stay loyal to. Like, when I was an athlete, I hated doing squats and lifting heavy weights. Now, mind you, I was squatting 400 pounds. I had, like, the record for Team Canada. I was so strong. I was so strong. And when I retired, or when I ended my career, I vowed to never do a squat again. Yes! I was like, I hate them. I'm never going to do it. And I kept that promise to myself for a long time, not understanding that muscle, that power, that lifting, that is the vitality of life. Like, we need muscle, especially women. Like, as you get older, you need muscle. It's such a beautiful part of health. And I was like, I'm not doing it. So I had to observe that promise, that, because I was so loyal to a narrative and I didn't even know.
So when Elisa's saying narrative, just for those that are watching, if you're kind of new to the self-help space and such, it's the story and the lie that we have been telling ourselves for years, right? It's like that we show up as, and we convince ourselves that we are. So if you're doing any type of work in that space, so I'm hearing a couple things. Self-awareness is number one. Observing your thoughts, feelings, emotions.
I would say that's
curious.
Number one.
That's number one.
I would say observing the story, observing your inner critic, your inner voice, starting to pay. That's number one.
And then that develops self-awareness.
That will bring self-awareness.
Yeah.
Then you can start to pay attention to some of the habits that you do.
Well, and going back to like the self-awareness, if you notice a story that keeps coming up, think about your past and whose story is that? Is it my coach? Is it actually mine? Is it a parent that I've heard over and over, right? Because then we adopt those as our own into our lives.
That was kind of a vein that I took, was like, because we as human beings want to blame someone for the way we are.
Yeah.
We don't want to take responsibility for ourselves. So I did go through a point where I was blaming the people. You want to create that monster so that you don't have to take responsibility. And that was not the right route, but I had to go down that road a little bit to realize, oh, I'm doing the same thing that I've always done. I'm avoiding. I'm hiding. So I had to kind of do a U-turn, which is fine. It's part of a lot of people's process. Now, like, I like, everyone's journey is going to look and be different. But so if you're in that blame game, it was part of my process.
I think it was part of mine too.
Yeah.
So I think most people have to go through that blame, shame, self-loathing before they realize, oh.
And a lot of people will stay there.
Yeah.
Because now they have discovered their enemy. So part of the self-awareness journey is to pay attention. And then when you discover who your enemy is, you're like, oh, that's why I'm this way.
And then you look at your daily habits and rituals, and that either show up to serve the enemy or show up to serve.
Yeah. So you can keep blaming that person, but you're not doing the healing. It's that person or that place or that thing or that event or that thing, that trauma, whatever it is not. That happened a long time ago. You're the one bringing that to today, to this moment. You're the one reliving that story over and over again and attaching meaning to it. And that's what I mean by the narrative. So you need to pay attention to that. And so, yeah, does that?
Yeah, totally. I get it. I totally get it. So you start to bridge the gap. Obviously, you've gone down, you're a gold medalist. You put on all this weight, deep depression. You work your way back to yourself. And so where are you now?
Well, now.
Cole's no version, where are you now?
Sport? Okay. So sport taught me so much about who I am in one aspect. And I had to get over. I had to heal from the wound of not showing up for myself and of my response to not showing up to myself as well. I had to grieve a lot. A lot of people do gratitude. Gratitude practices were the rage, like, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. And it didn't feel right for me. I felt like I was lying to myself to be grateful because I didn't feel grateful. So what I did instead was I started to practice grieving and gratitude. I had to grieve. We're, especially women, we are layering things on top of each other, avoiding the hard shit. So we haven't let go and grieved and the losses that we have had. We're just like save face. Like athletes always have to pretend. So you're just playing pretend. You're not grieving. So I started to do 3 things that I'm grieving, be it,
like your physique as an athlete.
My physique as an athlete. That's a big one.
That's a huge
But I was
one.
even grieving things like missing the bus, or like I was grieving the decision to not work out because I was battling myself with it. Or we can grieve so many things that we like. Anytime that you want to like, oh, I can't think about that. Oh, I'm avoiding that. That's the thing to grieve.
Where there's resistance, you must go.
That's right, the resistance. And then after doing that, I could be grateful. Look at myself. I believe that what sport taught me and what I forgot for a second in that downward slope is self-confidence, is the backbone of self-confidence is in the little things. It's in completing little tasks. And if all you can do showing up in your day is make your bed, that is how you build confidence. That's the doing.
Yes.
So when you ask me what the doing is, it's little by little, a little becomes a lot. And there's no silver bullet. We want it just to be fixed and to go back.
Compounds over time.
No way, man. You are kidding yourself if that's your approach. You're going to keep falling into the hole, and the hole's going to get deeper, and it's going to get harder to get out, and you're going to need to blame.
Absolutely. I believe it. I believe it wholeheartedly. And again, the whole point of it, if you are an athlete who is struggling in silence and you don't know where to start, it is all about that observing of your thoughts, observing of your emotions, your feelings, speaking to someone. Mm-hmm. You got to try it out. It's kind of like practicing your technique as an athlete. You figure out what your secret sauce is and what works for you, and what works for someone else might not work for you. But at the end of the day, it's all about introspection.
Yes. And continuing to observe, because what works for you now, you're going to stay loyal to. And that's what gets people stuck.
Yeah.
You are not stuck. You are loyal to something that used to work for you, and now it no longer does. So, and I started to do this with every aspect of my life. Financial, relationships, career, just personal life, all of the things, my physique, my health, I started to pay attention. And now, you ask me where I am now. I mean, I have never been more balanced, more emotionally resilient, happy, just joyous of every day. Like now my gratitude is humongous. I am still grieving. I'm still in the practice forever. I'm out of debt. I have 0 debt.
Congratulations.
I am in the most loving. I went through divorce. I was in an abusive relationship. That's what I thought I deserved. I had to get out of that somehow. Now I'm in the most loving relationship. It's fantastic. I have so many beautiful things. And, even through the roughest 3 years that we all had, I kept showing up because I kept observing the thoughts that came up that you can listen to and believe that are true, or you can pause. This is one of my favorite things in the doing. Okay? And it sounds so stupid. However, if you hear that you're a fat pig or whatever it is for you, because you're going to have it, the thing that you keep doing. Oh, I'm such an idiot. When you drop a pen, when you spill the milk, I'm such an idiot. Do you talk to yourself like that? You might. You have to pay attention to find out. Now when I drop the milk, you know what I say?
Meh.
Oops.
Yeah, exactly. Oops. It's funny. It's funny how that I noticed those little changes in me as well once after breast cancer, when I started to surrender and do this type of work, and the things that used to throw you off before don't irk you anymore. And that's when if you notice that things that used to trigger you before don't, congratulations, you've grown a bit, right? And having that awareness. So I love that.
So when you hear the voice, you say, oh, there it is. Like you're going to trigger. That's the thing. Stop. Unless you're driving a car, close your eyes and just take a deep breath. And then put some space between yourself and the thought, because the thought's not yours. And in that space is you're going to have choice. So you can choose to keep responding the way you always do because it's comfortable and you're tired and your kids are screaming in the back seat, or you can choose something else. Your life, including your thoughts and every decision you make, is your choice. It's no one else's choice. And the more you can own that shit.
I believe it. I love it. Such good information.
Oh my God.
If you have questions, I know sometimes some of these topics can go over your head if you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
So please reach out. Please, if you're struggling, combined, we have a lot of history with this, and just going through our own arenas in life based on sport, we both have gone through divorce. I've gone through bankruptcy, breast cancer. You've gone through, read her bio. She's been through it all too. So, the proof doesn't lie. There is room. You will get to that other side. And I'm just so grateful that you're so transparent with your journey, because I think that's another part with athletics is we are so used to being in the limelight, or we're so used to being like having it all together. And we're the one that gives hope to everybody else, right? They're coming to your sporting event. And then when you feel in a dark place, it's really hard because your ego is used to showing up like this, and then you're not feeling that. So if you are suffering in silence, please know that there is a community here to support you. This is episode 15. Say your last name.
Kurylowicz.
Yeah.
Elisa Kurylowicz.
Elisa Kurylowicz. I feel like I'm always going to butcher her name, but thank you so much for coming. And I will post this everywhere. It'll be on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. There's a ton of other episodes with other athletes, and the lineup of athletes coming this summer is amazing between NFL, NHL, OHL, Team Canada, Olympians. So the conversation is going. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Have a great day, guys.